Hi, my name is Brian Hudspeth. Given that I'm a student of counseling and I'm not a licensed therapist, the following simulation is used solely for the purpose of academic practice and training, and all parties involved understand that this exercise is for education purposes only. Hi, Charlene. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing better.
Good, good. So, since I saw you last, we've been doing the taper down here every other week. How do you feel about that? How are you feeling with us meeting every other week rather than every week?
I feel like I am doing better. I feel like I'm not as depressed, and
Good.
I've been doing my assignments.
Very good. All right. What do you attribute the success to? Because it definitely sounds like success. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I'm able to test some of the things that I've learned here. I feel like my automatic thoughts, I try to change them to be more positive, and trying to think of, where do I deserve credit for? So I'm
All right.
thinking along those lines more.
Good. You know what I like about every one of those statements is you said I. I am becoming more aware of my automatic thoughts, and I am reviewing the stuff that we have learned here, because ultimately that is where we attribute the success. Is you've worked very, very hard. You've learned a lot about yourself. You're beginning to find different ways to look at things and different ways, alternatives to be able to go about stuff. How have you been doing with the social things? Are you still getting out more? Are you still meeting with friends and doing things?
Yeah, that's going better too.
Good.
I try to do something every week.
There's a term that we counselors use, because we always have to have some term that makes us a little bit different, but we use the term affect. And affect, kind of, we're talking about from the shoulders up. And affectively, you look brighter. You're smiling more, you seem happier, and that's a good thing. Can you see that when you look at yourself in the mirror?
Yeah, I feel better, so
Good.
yeah.
Excellent. All right, one of the things, as we begin to kind of taper down our counseling sessions, and eventually here fairly soon, we're going to have reached a point where we're going to have that last regular session. One of the things that is real important for me to have clients be able to understand is that there are going to be ups and downs. There's going to be some peaks and valleys. And it's that way for everybody, not just clients who are coming to therapy, but for all of us. There's periods where we have some down times. Maybe some things are going to hit us. It's a little out of the ordinary, or maybe it's just too much of an old thing that hits us. But as you've learned, you've got the tools. You know what to do. You know how to evaluate when those periods come along and maybe some of your feelings change. You have the tools now to evaluate and be able to understand better what's going on. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. It's not uncommon as we begin to work our way towards ending counseling. It's not an uncommon thing for clients to have some mixed feelings. And we talked in our last session, I told you I wanted you to sit down and make a list talking about the advantages and disadvantages to tapering the treatment. And did you do that?
Yes, sir.
Excellent, very good. Tell me what you came up with.
Well, I think with advantages, I feel like I'm more able to take charge of myself, my life, have more confidence in doing that. I also have an opportunity to test some of the things that I learned in here and to use them in my life.
Very good. Any disadvantages?
Well, it's a little bit scary, because I think now I'm going to have to do it alone, all by myself, and it's like coming here is kind of like a tether, kind of like, it's holding me together a little bit. It's a safety,
Sure.
feeling safe.
Sure. And there's a couple of things that I want to say about that. The first one being that anytime any of us do anything new, there's always a little bit of that fear of letting go. Anytime that we kind of step out on our own, I remember leaving to go to college, although that's been an awful lot of years ago. And I was anxious and I wanted to get out there and I wanted to be independent and do that. Was there a little apprehension about leaving home? Sure there was. And so in a sense, you're stepping out as a new you, the new you that you have been able to work through and work very hard to reach this point that you're at. The second thing that I want to tell you about that, though, is, and I think I mentioned this in the last session, that even though we will have one session where we will eventually say, here within probably the next 2 sessions, this will be the last regularly scheduled session. We're still going to do the boosters that we've discussed at 3, 6, 9, 12 months, where you come back in, we just review, make sure you remember the homework and how you're doing. We'll do those things together. And the thing that so you'll know that you're having that coming back in. And the other thing is that if you ever just get in a spot that you just can't figure out, or you just want to bounce something off somebody, I would still be available for even after that 12-month period. We can get back together for kind of a one-shot look at something. 2 things that I want to leave you with today before we end is the idea of when you get out of here, 2 things that you can do that are going to be extremely helpful, and I've given you a little handout where I've talked about it, is going back and periodically reviewing your notes that you've made here in therapy. You've done a great job of making copious notes on everything we've talked about, and I think that the proof of that is the learning that you've had. Go back periodically and review those, even though you may say, gee, I know all of that. Sometimes it helps just to go back over and look at it. And then I introduced the idea in the last session briefly, where we talked about doing self-therapy sessions. And I really want you, particularly in the beginning, to sit down and do that. And you've got the little list there that I printed out for you that shows the things you go over in those self-therapy sessions. Sit down in the beginning, maybe once a week, just like you were back coming to counseling. And then after that, after you get to feel good, you've got some confidence behind you, you may go to every other week, then maybe once a month, once a quarter, and eventually you may be just doing it once or twice a year. But you know it's there, it's available, you know how that specific tool works for you, and you've got the knowledge. You've got your toolbox full of stuff that we've talked about that are good CBT techniques, and they're there at your disposal. So anytime that you run into some of those things, or new things, you know what you need to do to get there. All right, we're going to schedule one more session after this, and then we'll talk about scheduling your next one in 3 months. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.